At a recent press conference, Mayor Daley joined Chicago Public School officials to announce that once again, CPS students have improved their scores on the Illinois Standards Achievement Test. Here are highlights of the July 8th news conference.
This is a great success story. This is about, as you pointed out, education for a child, and that's all they want to do. And there's great stories in the Board of Education, the great stories about principals, teachers, parents, volunteers, students, that many times go unrecognized. It's always, unfortunately, you hear a lot of negative stories continually, but here in the West Englewood, there are many great families here. And that doesn't, they're struggling, but they're really good families. And I met many, many people who grew up in Englewood. I mean, it's amazing. Yes, in Englewood and West Englewood, they grew up here. And they've been very, very successful. They grew up in challenging families, challenging times, a lot of issues with their families, brothers and sisters, but didn't matter. And so when we take it totally, everybody wants a good quality education. I don't care, any parent, regardless of what situation they're in, wants a better life for their child or grandchild. And everybody knows that. At the same time, we know there's many, many issues confronting society, and not just in Chicago, but all of society, dealing with many, many issues. But here, we really believe that every person in Chicago agrees that if we as a city are to succeed, we must build the best education system, not only in our country, but in the world. I believe in that. And in my travels, when you go to other countries, they don't have opportunities for their children to go to school. It's amazing the rest of the world. They just don't have these opportunities. But here we have a lot of opportunities. And I really believe no Chicagoan will not accept anything less. We want to make it the best. And that doesn't mean there's a struggle every day and we keep struggling. We're going to keep moving forward. A good education is not only the pathway out of poverty, and everybody knows the only answer to poverty is a good education. If you don't have a good education, then you will stay in poverty the rest of your life. It happens, unfortunately, and that's what it is. It's Chicago's path, our host cities, to our economic security and our growth of our city. But to be the best, we must continue to raise the bar, set higher expectations, and we should always set higher expectations for our children. I don't care if they're your own child or any other child. You don't say, well, for my child, I'm going to raise the expectations, but for the other children, we're going to lower them. That is the worst thing we ever do in society. You have to raise them all. At the same time, we demand more from every student. And that's why today I challenge our school leaders to take our students to the next level continually. Today we are pleased to report that our students continued their steady upward progress this year, as shown by the results of 2009 ISAT exams, which cover grades 3 through 8. The composite score of students meeting or exceeding state standards is up 2 points from last year to 69.8%. Reading scores are up 1.1 point to 67.8%. Math is up 3 points, 73.5%. And science is up 1.7 points to 64.3%. So we're not talking about 10, 15, 20%. This is a growth pattern, and that's what you have to have. This is a valid growth pattern that you see. In addition, very importantly, the achievement gap among racial groups is decreasing, with the composite scores for African American students increasing by 2.2 points, and for Hispanic students, 1.2 points. So they're not going up 10, 15%. This is not done overnight. This is a lot of hard work and commitment. And more than 60% of our students improved their overall composite scores over last year. These numbers are part of a broader context for progress since I've taken responsibility for the school system. The facts are that at the elementary school level, ISAT scores have increased twice as much as the state overall scores. Attendance is up, and that's very important. The first day every day, attendance is up in our public school system. At the high school level, ACT scores are up, while attendance and graduation are as well. The dropout rate is down. The number of students taking advanced placement tests as well as passing them are both up. And more of our students are going on to college. And you can see that continually in our college system. When we had the city council a couple of weeks ago, our ROTC high school gathered about $6 million worth of scholarships, unheard of any city like that. We had an ROTC scholarship. Again, our students, our parents and teachers and principals, others deserve a lot of credit. Many of them have redoubled their efforts with greater results. But make no mistake, I'm the first to acknowledge that even with our progress, we have a long way to go. And this is not only in our school system, but in America. Not enough elementary students are graduating to high school ready for more demanding coursework, and that is important. Too many of our students still don't graduate high school and go on to college, or even get a job. How's that? We must increase the number of high school students who are on the right track for higher education. Even though a majority of our African American graduates, high school, far too often drop out. Not enough high school graduates who go on to college actually get their diploma. And that's why they're mentoring. Our system, our public school system, follows the student when they go to college and find out maybe they need mentoring. They're away from their home the first time. They have family problems. And so a lot of them require mentoring. We don't realize that. And many of these children are the first of their family ever to go to college. And so, of course, they're going to miss their family, they miss their church, extended family, different parties. They're away from their families. And so that requires a lot of mentoring. And that's one thing the Board of Education has been working with these schools that give scholarships, that to mentor the students when they're there. And that's very, very important. And all of us, we can and must do better. We must take our schools to the next level. I have to be honest, after recent reports, I'm increasing concerned that the state tests that are required to be taken by every student are easier to pass and less strict in their standards than they used to be. But that's a report, and we're looking at it. Ron Huberman will talk about that. These are statewide exams, and no one can blame Chicago. No one can blame anyone. These are statewide exams that are given to every child. So to pinpoint only the city of Chicago is really unfair. Statewide exams are statewide exams. They don't make an exam for us. They don't make an exam for the North Shore. They don't make an exam for the South Suburban area or Bellevue or Rockford or Peoria or Springfield. There's one statewide exam, and that's what we have to take. The effect is that some parents might be led to believe that children are prepared then they actually go on to college or some other form of higher education. And that requires to raise higher expectations in the schools. You have to raise the bar. And that requires us to really look at the quality of work and the quality of courses they are taking and what they're basically being instructed in high school. I believe there needs to be a full discussion about implementing new state tests to ensure that we have confidence in them. Their results reflect how a student might succeed in the real world. And not just go on to college, but to get a job. I mean, that's what we see. And you can see in college as well, in what's happening in colleges as well. It's not just elementary and high school. That's the other thing. At the same time, moving forward, we must set higher standards and greater accountability for our school system. I've asked Ron Huberman, Eason-Watkins, Michael Scott to look into how we might accomplish this. The bottom line is that we have to both give our students credit for their progress, but also accept the reality that there more must be done in regards to our education system. To keep our schools moving forward, I've asked our school leaders to focus on several equally important goals. Number one, in order for Chicago to progress, to continue, we need to continue to open, yes, new public schools, schools of choice, charter schools, but also a variety of schools, especially in the public education system. You have to give children and parents more options. That's one thing. Within a school, as well, to improve our traditional neighborhood schools. And the key, this is a neighborhood school. This is the key. Neighborhood schools can be great. Don't think neighborhood schools cannot be great. You can when you have good principals, when you have good teachers, we have parents. Everybody realizes that education is the answer to the problems. My commitment will always be to give a good education to every child in every school. We must never forget that the majority of our students attend neighborhood schools. We owe them the same quality of education. And that is it, quality of education. And that's why we must stay the focus on teaching the basics in the classroom. And Eason-Watkins has talked about that. Learning basic subjects, reading, math, and science are more important than ever to succeed in our modern life. As I said many times before, we must do more, far more, to turn around our troubled schools, especially our high schools. With the support from Chicago business community, the Gates Foundation, the Chicago Public Education Fund, the Joyce Foundation, Chicago Community Trust, MacArthur Foundation, I know we can and will achieve that goal. Many efforts are in place and working. The question now is, what more can be done? As we recognize for many years, in a modern economy, a high school diploma is no longer the bare minimum students need for success. A college diploma or extended from high school education is needed. But today, too many of our high school students still fail, our students, and we cannot accept that. We've got to get more minority male students to stay in high school and graduate. That is very important. We cannot write off a generation of young people. Even though you drop out for 1 year, we have to some way, through their parents, through the ministers in the community, bring those young people back into school. They have to get a good quality education. Overall, more of our students must graduate high school and whether go on to college or a good quality job and eventually go on to college. To achieve these goals, we must continue to raise the bar for our students, set higher expectations, and demand even more from them. We must better train and recruit our teachers. Our teachers must know that we stand with them, that their performance will be evaluated thoughtfully but fairly, and that we want them to succeed, both the teacher and the classroom. We need more mentoring of our teachers, and new efforts to reduce teacher burnout and turnover. Yes, we have that. We need to get even more schools in session year-round. So far, data shows that year-round school work because students retain more of what they have learned. Instead of taking 2 months off, 2.5 months off, when they go to school all year, they retain more, and they're more active in school, and they're doing a much better job. We still need to investigate what it will cost to at least implement a pilot program for longer school days. That is very important. 6 hours a day, 5.5 hours instructions, that is very short. It doesn't have to be strictly instructions all day. You can do many things with after-school programs. If not, then these children spend less and less time. And America is telling people to spend less time in our education system. In these very tough economic times, I'm not sure we can accomplish it citywide, but can we at least do a pilot program and find out? As I said, our schools must be even more accountable. We need to implement new, higher standards throughout the system. Of course, we must continue to do all we can to keep our students safe. We must provide even more after-school programs throughout the year, create a more organized, stable learning environment, step our effort to provide safe passage to and from school. And finally, as part of a community school concept, we must do a better job providing needed social services to our children in school. Breakfast should be provided to each and every child. Department of Children and Family Services in the state must tell us in regards to children that are wards of the state that are going to the school, so the teacher knows who's in your class. If that child has been a victim of a crime, that child been an offender, they have to have all that knowledge, because when they're teaching 25, 30 children and 4 or 5 of them, you wonder why they're acting up, because there's issues in their family. There's issues, they have been victims of something. We have no knowledge of that. Teachers have no knowledge of that. And so that is very, very difficult. And I've heard from many teachers that they should at least have some knowledge about that child in the classroom or those group of children that have some serious problems in regards to just sitting there and trying to learn. And I really believe that. A child that isn't healthy or well-nourished cannot learn. If a child is hungry coming to class, or he or she doesn't have a good good environment at home, we have to know all that, because this really affects a child. You've heard me address many of these challenges before, but it's more important now than ever before if we want to continue the year-by-year progress, and year-in-year progress is working, that our students continue to show. Our students are yet again demonstrating how much can be accomplished when we believe, and you have to believe in them. You have to build them up and say you can accomplish anything. When we invest our time, and they invest their time and energy and resources, all of us in them. Now it's up all of us to take the next step. Now I'd like to introduce Ron Huberman. Ron?
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. It's very exciting to be here at Altdale School, and I want to congratulate Principal Vera Williams and her assistant principal, Kenya Underwood. There's no surprise why we are here at West Englewood at this particular school, and that's because of the exceptional gains made at this particular school. And the preliminary 09 results for ISAT for this school shows a 10.2 increase from 08 figures for students passing the state standard, and then significant growth for those students who exceed standards is up 11% since 2008. They've clearly figured out a formula at this school to increase growth exponentially, and we're very proud of what they're doing here, and certainly we're going to be looking to replicate the growth that they've had at this school and asking how do we accomplish it at other places. But we know that when great growth of achievement happens at a school, it always starts with a great leader and a great principal. And Principal Vera Willis has shown great leadership, and she's built a great team, and the results here show it. So we're pleased to be here this morning at what is really a thriving neighborhood school and an anchor in the Englewood community. As Mayor Daley has said, we're here today to highlight some of our gains, but also to bolster initiatives for improvement. Over the last 14 years under the mayor's leadership, a great deal has improved, and there continues to be steady and measurable improvement since the mayor championed school reform. At the core of Chicago Public School mission are a number of measures designed to drive broad gains in student achievement. And like the mayor has said, progress, grading school performance, providing educational options, and targeting resources to reward success are all tools that we believe are going to help improve schools and raise academic student achievement. Performance at Chicago Public Schools has been improving over time, and Chief Education Officer Barbara Eason-Watkins will give more details of many of the test score results that we're here to report today. CPS continues to make consistent improvements in meeting and exceeding ISAT scores. But more needs to be done to increase the number of students who exceed state standards because the current gains are simply not enough. We must set our sights higher and implement programs and initiatives that will yield better results for our students over time. And we're already working to move more students into the exceeds category because we know that students need to exceed standards in elementary school in order to be successful in high school. The mayor outlined progress from 3rd to 8th grade, and our gains in the exceeds categories has been substantial. On the ISAT composite, CPS students exceeded standards grew from 5.2% in 2001 to 14.1% in 2009. The rate of gain in our increasingly popular year-round learning schools, the Track E schools, and there will be 132 going into session this August as those year-round schools, again outpaced that the pace of traditional schools. And they had a 10% improvement over a traditional school, not in the year-round improvement from this year's test results. So we believe that's a very promising strategy. We're continuing to see the improvement in grades 3 through 8, with 8th grades showing the greatest increase by 3 points. Small steps are worth noting, but we must have the courage and effort to provide our educators with the tools to make stronger gains. Our charter schools have paved the way for innovative instructional learning, but we must invest more in neighborhood schools, give students the opportunity to learn in their community and have the best educational opportunities in their communities. We know that behind every successful and hardworking student are hardworking teachers. There's no question that teachers are a motivating and driving force behind a student's success. The mayor has said today that we must set higher standards and greater accountability for our school system, and we will. While our efforts remain ongoing in building new schools and improving existing schools, teachers are essential to student learning and achievement. Earlier, several weeks ago, we announced one such initiative, which is training new teachers. We've centralized new teacher induction with a very intensive course before they even show up at the first day of training at a school. We also announced a citywide initiative that every new teacher will get a coach for their first 2 years. These are coaches that come from the New Teacher Center. It's a research-based organization that has a particular methodology by which they coach teachers. When they've done this, we've seen that teacher turnover goes down substantially, and the outcome of teachers improves greatly. And so we're very excited to provide that. Earlier, in the last several months, we also provided that we're going to be giving better information to teachers and principals. Across all of our 20,000 classrooms, we're going to technology-based online assessments that will be given multiple times throughout the years. Those online real-time assessments will provide real-time information to teachers to know exactly how their students are achieving class by class. It will give principals a real-time snapshot of what is the academic achievement that's occurring. One of the assessments that we're using is a national assessment, which will also give us national benchmarks to compare ourselves to other urban districts around the country. We're implementing other technology, more database systems that can provide teachers and principals with early warning signs to address at-risk students. And that's going to be an announcement in the coming months of how detailed that will be in terms of providing incredibly good information to identify those students that we know are at risk and ensuring that we give them the extra attention and mentoring that is needed to ensure that they stay in school and they succeed. We're also going to be announcing shortly monitoring systems that will help prevent students from dropping out of school. We have a very good idea now of what causes our students to drop out, and we are putting in place very aggressive citywide protocols that we'll be announcing again in the coming months about how we're going to be addressing that dropout rate head on. These are many of the challenges that when I started CPS, the mayor called me in and said these are things we must address in even more aggressive areas. And finally, we're also going to be announcing a very aggressive school violence plan that allows for increased community organizational involved in safe passage, more early identification of students we believe are at risk of being engaged in violence, and new tools at our high schools to ensure that all of our high schools have a culture of calm. These are just some of the initiatives that the mayor has challenged us with, and between now and the start of the school year, we'll be announcing. We fully understand it is difficult to make improvements in high school outcomes if students are not prepared at the end of the 8th grade. The impact of the district's major high school initiatives cannot yet be measured by our high school metrics. The High School Transformation Initiative, for example, is only in its 3rd year of implementation, and the first cohort of high school transformation students have not even yet taken the PSAE. And so that is a new program, but one that we believe has tremendous promise for us. Students who've had the benefit of improved instruction in elementary schools enter our high school more likely to achieve. The number of CPS high school graduates who enrolled in college is increasing steadily, from 43.5% in 2004 to 52.5% in 2008. The ability to enroll in college is an important outcome for CPS students, and we believe that the benchmark of at least a 20 on ACT gives us a good indicator of where we need to go. We've also seen a marked increase in the number of students taking advanced placement courses, from less than 6,000 in 2004 to over 12,000 in 2008, and we're going to see again a substantial increase this year. That's over 12,464 students who took advanced placement college credit courses this year. And just to give you the growth, it was 12,464 in 2008, up from 11,137 in 2007, and we're going to show you another great growth for 2009. But now our task is to build upon the improvements without watering down standards in any way, without impacting our neighborhood and community schools, and challenging ourselves about reform and results-driven accountability. The mayor believes that there needs to be a full discussion about implementing new state tests so that we can have full confidence in them, and that their results reflect how a student might succeed in life. And he's right. That's the kind of urgency we need. We can lift student achievement even higher by giving more flexibility to turn around failing schools, and by giving families with children stuck in failing schools the right to choose something better. To give you more detail of this year's test results, I'd like to now introduce Dr. Barbara Eason-Watkins. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. I'd like to echo some of the mayor's comments on our goals for even better performing schools and student achievement, and reiterate our pledge and commitment to continue to raise the bar for higher performance. Test scores are a snapshot of achievement levels. And while we are pleased with some of the preliminary data, we know that we have work to do, and we accept the challenge before us. But nonetheless, we believe that steady and consistent gains in objective, measurable performance is certainly worth noting. Education reform under the mayor's leadership has made significant progress, and there is no question that this progress has made a difference. You've heard about some of the gains we are seeing in preliminary 2009 data, but let me just repeat a few. As the mayor stated, we're up 2 points in the ISAT composite over a year ago. New data show that 69.8% of students now meet or exceed standards, up from 67.8%. We continue to close the minority gap. African American students gained 2.2 percentage points over their 08 ISAT performance, and the performance of Hispanic students rose another 1.4% year over year. We've made an incremental year-over-year step forward, 1 percentage point, in the all-important exceeds category. But let me repeat what you heard earlier in this regard. CPS students exceeding standards has risen from 5.2% in 2001 to 14.1% this year. Our biggest gains are at the 8th grade level, where students tested a full 3 points higher in meets or exceeds than they did a year ago. We believe this trends well for students who will be entering high school in only a few weeks. We have 9 schools where 100% of the students met or exceeded standards, and another 11 where 95% or more met or exceeded. Some other gains worth noting: among 3rd graders, 66.9% now meet or exceed standards, up from 64.7%, which is a 2.2% gain. Among 4th and 5th graders, the gain is 2.3%. And 6th and 7th graders showed respective 1.3 and 1.6 percentage gains year over year. Small gains are never enough, but each of these grade levels show gains nonetheless. I'd also like to highlight some of the progress made at individual schools. Here at Altgeld, the meets-exceed score rose from 65.9 to 76.1%. And Ms. Willis has done an outstanding job with her staff and her assistant principal. I was here about this time last year, and they had done a comprehensive analysis of their test data, and they knew clearly what their strengths and weaknesses were, and they had a plan for moving forward. And I would say that you did an outstanding job, and your results demonstrate that. At the Coonley School on the north side, meets or exceeds went from 74.8% to 84.9%. At the Beethoven School on 47th Street, the exceeds percentage went from 8.3 to 19%. And again at Coonley, exceeds went from 14.7% to 23.4%. And out of our 519 elementary schools, 320 showed improvement. So yes, we are pleased to point to the gains we've seen in the past year and over the past 14 years. And we congratulate the hard and dedicated work of our teachers and principals, those that we charge with the care and nurturing of our most important asset, your children and our students. We also want to applaud the students and parents, because at the end of the day, it is up to them to take the hard work of our education professionals and apply those lessons. That's why Ron and I are committed and are very dedicated to investing in our teachers and principals. We're committed to better training, to programs that reward performance and accomplishments, to giving our educators the quantitative tools they need to make a difference in the children's lives. So yes, we are pleased to note progress, and yes, we understand the concerns others have voiced, but we are also engaged in putting into place the mechanisms for real and sustained growth. Altogether, we believe this to be a formula for long-term success. Thank you.